Hey friends, welcome to the Swing My Heart podcast with your host, Kristen,
Nicole,
and Hannah. Come join our porch swing conversations.
filled with lots of faith, hope, and heart. Hey Postables, we are back with another episode, and today we will be recapping episodes 7 and 8 of the TV series Something Good and Dark of Night. Something Good premiered on June 1st, 2014.
Starring Adam DeMarco as Billy James, Leah Gibson as Linda Hawkins, Nicole Fraisenet as Jennifer, Valerie Bertinelli as Rebecca Starkwell, and Chris Gauthier as Serge.
The postal detectives discover a package of music that can launch a career and restore a life. What were your first thoughts on this episode?
So I really like this episode. I like that they keep you guessing throughout, like what happened to Billy. And of course, it's a sad situation, but I thought the ending was good. I love that Rita and Shane are like really in tune about knowing that Billy was in love. Like They both kind of just like are thinking the same thing, finishing each other's sentences.
Yeah.
Overall, I like this episode. I don't necessarily love it. I think I'd give it a 6.5 out of 10. What about you?
I love it. I think it's a great episode. I would probably give it an 8 out of 10.
Nice.
The episode starts with a young woman singing in a studio with others playing instruments behind her. We don't know who she is and who the people playing behind her are. I wrote in my notes, maybe she's a musician and maybe that's her band. We are introduced to a young man named Billy. He writes his own music and he plays the guitar.
Mm-hmm.
In the opening scene, we find out that the young woman that is singing in the studio, her name is Linda Hawkins, and she and her band came into the studio after their show at the Mile High Stadium and said they wanted to jam. I thought that was cool. Just a well-known musician that just did a show as an opening act, just, comes into a studio in town.
What a big deal that must have been. Like to see her walk in and just want to jam out with them.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Linda, she gives Billy the information he needs to send the demo of his song to her agent, RJ. And she believes that the song will be a big hit and it will change his life.
Yes, that's got to be exciting.
Yeah.
A little nerve-wracking.
I know. I don't know what I would do if I were in his shoes.
I know, right?
I would probably be freaking out.
Yes, me too.
After the opening scene and the intro, it cuts to the DLO and the Postables. They're taking out all of these items that were not packaged.
Properly sealed.
Yeah. Properly sealed. Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
I couldn't think of the...
They're loose items, I guess you'd say.
Yes.
Yeah.
I couldn't think of the word. My mind was blank. They finally get to the demo CD and Norman puts the CD in the CD player. Mm-hmm. And after they listen to the song, he says that it sounds like an audition recording, professionally recorded, but not extensively produced. And then this is the scene when Shane and Rita are commenting on how Billy is in love, but we don't know who he's in love with.
Yeah. I love that they both just kind of, just based off the lyrics and, the style of the song, they knew it was a love song.
Yeah.
Thought that was really cool. And Oliver and Norman, are just kind of clueless to it.
Yeah, I wrote it down in my funniest moments when they're talking about the song. And Oliver says, love? And then Rita says, oh yes, deep, unspoken, requited. I can't tell you to your face, so I hope one day after listening to this song, you just figure it out kind of love.
And she's right there next to Norman, like, hello, I know what I'm talking about here.
I know. I love that moment.
Yeah.
And then they go on to mention Serge and how it's time for Shane to meet him, and Norman's face just cracks me up. He's just like, It's time to meet Serge.
Time to meet Serge. It's like some type of like spiritual experiment. Like,
I
here
know.
we go.
Shane and Norman, they go to the pawn shop where Serge, his cousin, works. And Shane and Norman are talking to Serge, and he says that every recording studio has its own unique signature. And he mentions that they can take it to an acoustic engineer for sound printing and figure out where it was recorded.
Very astute observation.
Yes. He also tells them that Linda Hawkins is the lead singer of a really famous band, but they don't mention the name of the band.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it would maybe be the Linda Hawkins band, maybe, possibly. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I would be interested to know what the name of the band actually is.
Yeah.
We meet the Postable's new supervisor and friend of Shane's, Becky, or Rebecca Starkwell from Washington. When we first meet her, she is in the DLO. She's helping Rita get her photos taken for Mail Monthly magazine. And then Shane comes in and they have their reunion, which we can talk about a little bit more later on.
Yeah.
But Becky tells Shane that she got a promotion a month after she left Washington. And she flies around doing whatever she thinks will improve awareness, goodwill, and increased reliance on the work of the post office.
Sounds like a nice job to have.
I know, yeah.
I want that job.
And then Shane says something about how, she can't wait to hear about everything that's been going on in Washington. And then Becky comments, and everybody. And I wrote in my notes, who could she mean by everybody?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody.
Yep, we know.
We know, although we don't know that particular point, but then we find out later on in the episode. Yeah. Shane thinks of Becky as a big sister, and they have been through the Postal Wars together, as she tells Rita. Mm-hmm. I love their dynamic. Shane and Rebecca, or Becky's dynamic. I think it's great.
Yeah, they have good friend chemistry.
Yeah. Billy was supposed to send his song to Linda's agent a year ago, but of course it never got sent. We don't know why. Mm-hmm. The recording studio was a few blocks away from the Mile High Stadium, and the name of the studio is Deep Rock Sound. Mm-hmm. He was supposed to come to a party with Linda and her band, but never showed. And as Linda tells Shane when they're talking on the phone, she assumes that because he probably had a girlfriend that didn't want him going. Mm-hmm. Billy worked at the studio part-time. He said that his last name had too many syllables to sound like a successful songwriter. So he used his middle name and called himself Billy James.
That's a good name.
I agree. It's totally a name that you could, hear on the radio.
Oh, yeah. It sounds a lot better than what we find out his actual last name.
Yes. Billy, he worked there in exchange for studio time. So considering that he was a musician, he worked and, helped out at the studio so that he could, I guess, spend time, recording his own music there.
Yeah. Pretty clever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After Billy left the studio that night and didn't come back, there was no way to track him down. He talked about staying with his sister sometimes, but her neighbors always complained about his motorcycle being too loud. Mm. And the motorcycle was vintage, as Jennifer pointed out to, I believe it was Rita and Norman. Mm-hmm. In the scene when they go to the studio and they're asking him all the questions to find out more information.
Yes. Every cool musician has to have a cool bike.
Yes. Jennifer never went after Billy because she thought that he was just another musician who came and went, which is really sad.
Yeah. I guess she sees that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the next scenes is Shane and Becky in the Mailbox Grill, and we finally find out who Becky is referring to. And I wrote in my notes, who is Steve? And what relation does he have to Shane?
Yeah, exactly. I need all the details now. Who is this guy?
An old flame?
Yeah. Boo.
That's immediately what I thought of. An old flame.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Becky, although she doesn't say it, had Shane transferred to Denver. I loved Shane's reaction. She's like, Becky, you had me transferred? And Becky was like, I love you too much to answer that.
Yeah. Basically saying, I plead the fifth.
Yeah.
Not going to answer that right now. But that's awesome backstory that we get, about Shane's past and her ending up at the DLO.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But Becky definitely was the one that had her transferred.
Yep.
Jennifer thought Linda wanted to be Billy's girlfriend because she was flirting with him. What did you think? Did you think that Linda was kind of flirting with him in the opening scene?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think so, maybe a little bit, but also that's probably just her personality,
Yeah. That didn't really come across my mind as flirting. I thought she was just trying to be nice to him. Mm-hmm. But then I could see where Jennifer would think that she was flirting with him.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say since Jennifer, obviously had a thing for Billy, she probably was feeling a little jealous.
Yeah.
At the moment.
We find out that Billy's last name is Antonopoulos.
Yes.
Definitely too many syllables for
a radio.
A musician.
Yes. Yeah, it doesn't roll off the tongue as well as Billy James.
Yeah. He was involved in a motorcycle accident over a year ago, and he was admitted to South Denver Memorial Hospital emergency a year ago, and he is still there, unfortunately.
Yeah. Sad story.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the scenes I have under most tear-worthy moments. It really got me.
Yeah.
Emotional hearing that he was in the hospital.
Yeah, me too. And it just explained so much,
Mm-hmm. Billy has a sister who's been helping take care of him, and he is also struggling with amnesia. He doesn't remember some things from his past, and he was in the ICU for weeks. As his sister says, both of their parents are now gone. So she has been the one taking care of him.
Yeah, they're basically all that each other has.
Yeah.
They're dependent on each other.
As Shane and Oliver and Rita and Norman are walking out of the hospital, the first time they go and see Billy and his sister, we hear that Jennifer kept Billy's guitar in a special cabinet away from things other people left behind and kept it polished. And then Rita finally realizes that Jennifer is in love with Billy.
Aww.
The scene with Shane and Rita when they go to see Jennifer and tell her about Billy. There's also the scene of Billy and Jennifer, and she's asking him about the song. He tells her that he doesn't want to share the song until it's ready.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to Shane and Rita talking to Jennifer again. And then there's another flashback scene of Billy coming back into the studio, and he tries to get out of going to the party that Linda invited him to, but Jennifer convinces him to go, and then he walks out the door, not to be seen again.
Right.
Which kind of broke my heart.
I know. How did you feel about this revelation we actually get to see his accident,
Yeah, the accident broke my heart.
I know. Me too. It was really sad and kind of scary.
It was hard to watch.
Yeah, for sure. My
facial expression was the same expression of the girl that watched the accident happen. Like I literally the first time and then every time I've watched this episode, I literally have my hand over my mouth.
Oh yeah. Just kind of gasp.
Oh my gosh, what just happened?
I know. And thankfully he's wearing his helmet.
Yes.
Which, things could have been worse if he weren't wearing that.
The next and last scene is Billy and Jennifer reuniting, and we hear that Billy is in love with Jennifer too.
Yeah.
And and his song is about her. The song talks about someone who believes in him and gives him strength. Billy remembers music every time he smells Chinese food, and that's because they ate a lot of Chinese food at the studio.
Yeah.
The last thing we find out in the episode is that the day the accident happened, he made a U-turn, and he made that U-turn because he was going to go back to the studio and play Jennifer the song.
Yeah.
And then he had the accident and was put in ICU and just pretty much forgot, like Rita said. He forgot everything.
Yeah.
About that night.
Yeah. Which kind of makes their reunion a lot sweeter.
Yeah.
Because I can imagine just kind of the roller coaster of thoughts that Jennifer went through, like finding out that he is actually like alive, and that he didn't just like leave her, but then finding out that he was in an accident, but that he survived the accident, but now he just doesn't remember her or, hardly anything involving, music and his job, his career. So yeah, that's just really sad and I guess bittersweet, in the moment. But yeah, I loved hearing him sing to her. She finally got to hear the song.
Yeah. I did too. Do we want to talk about our favorite scenes from the episode?
Yes. Starting out, just Rebecca or Becky and Shane seeing each other again in the DLO, and they're like squealing and hugging each other. And I loved how like Norman is like slowly walking past it. He like doesn't want to like say anything or like ruin the moment, so he's just kind of slowly just walking through. I love that.
I love how when Rita's talking to Becky before Shane comes in, and I think Rita mentions her name, like she says Shane, and then Becky, kind of echoes that and it's like, Shane McInerney. And then like right as she's walking in, and she's like, yes. And then she's like, Becky? And then Becky's like, Shaney?
Shaney. I love that.
And I wrote in my funniest moments or funniest lines, Norman and Rita talking about the nicknames, and Norman's like, I can never call her Shaney.
Yeah.
And then Rita's like, well, I can never call you Norm.
Or her Reet.
Which is kind of funny thinking about him saying Reets, because then we hear that again in Higher Ground.
Oh, that's so funny. Another one of my favorite scenes is Oliver eavesdropping on Shane and Rebecca's lunch conversation at the Mailbox Grill, and just his facial expressions. And like he's like fidgeting and he's like adjusting his tie. And he's reading the book. What is the book? It's like
Getting the Fun Back.
Yeah, Getting the Fun Back, because of the comment that Shane, mentioned in the beginning about what real fun actually is.
Yeah, I wrote that down under funniest moments. The line in the beginning is, that not only doesn't sound like fun, attending a weekend seminar on mail is the opposite of fun. And then Oliver says, I imagine we have different notions on what constitutes fun, Miss McInerney. Yeah. And then Shane says, I have no doubt that we do, Mr. O'Toole. For example, I thought that the dance classes we took were fun. You did. I did, and I was disappointed when you felt it necessary to end them. You were? I was. That was not fun.
Yeah. Shane is
And then she continues with the conversation.
Yeah. She's still a little bit upset about the whole dance lessons, and bless her heart.
I also love in the scene that you just mentioned with Oliver in the Mailbox Grill, eavesdropping on Shane and Becky, just his facial expression when Becky said Shaney, he's like, Shaney.
Yeah. What?
I loved the scenes of Billy and Jennifer talking in the studio and just how supportive she was of him. I thought that was really sweet.
Yeah, I like those too.
I also forgot to mention, but in the scene with Shane and Becky and the mailbox girl, I loved Becky's line at the end when she says, Shaney, and then, she says something else, and then she's like, go out there and find yourself another Oliver, an available one.
Uh-huh.
And then Shane's like, I don't know if there is such a thing.
Yeah.
I would love to see Becky come back and see her reaction to Shane and Oliver now married.
Oh, yeah.
I would love to see what she says about that.
Oh, yeah. She's probably thinking, like, I need to know the backstory to this. I need to know how this happened. All the details, please.
Yes.
Yeah, I think she would fully approve.
Yes. Oliver, Norman, and Kelly playing cards with Billy. I thought that was a really nice moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Seeing them all interacting.
Yeah. Yeah. I liked it too. I also have when Jennifer returns Billy's guitar to him at the hospital.
Yes. I have that written down.
Yeah. She finds out that the song was for her because he's in love with her, and he starts to play. He starts strumming along, and he remembers how to play and what the lyrics are. I just wrote in capital letters, yay.
Yeah. And the looks between Shane and Oliver are really sweet too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I believe in an interview I read with Kristen, she mentioned that she believes that this is the moment Shane knew she was in love with Oliver.
Wow. So I wonder if, I guess, the conversation with, Becky kind of opened up, new thoughts and new feelings. And then this kind of sealed the deal for her. That's so cool. I can totally
I also loved the line in Billy's song that he sang as we see the looks between Shane and Oliver.
Right.
I can't remember which line it was. I think it was the line about always believing in me. Mm-hmm. Which really fits Shane and Oliver.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Which is really sweet.
Yes. The last of my favorite scenes is just at the end when the Postables are walking out of the hospital.
Yeah.
And Oliver makes that joke.
I have it written down.
Yeah. He says that he's working on his sense of humor.
Yeah. He says, that was a joke. I'm working on my sense of humor. And then Shane just kind of looks at him.
Yeah, because he's paying attention, He's listening to what Shane's saying about him, and it's really cool. It's a good moment.
Do we want to get into our funniest moments and lines that we haven't already mentioned?
Yes, I have two, and of course they're both Normanisms. But the first one is at the beginning when they're looking at all the loose items, and Norman talks about the sentimental comb.
Yes, I have it written down. He says, Shane asks, why keep all this stuff? And Norman says, I used to ask that question, but then we found an old comb and I wanted to throw it away. But Oliver figured out it belonged to a man who had gone bald, and it was the last memory of his hair. And then Shane is like, a sentimental comb?
Yeah. Isn't that kind of interesting that it's about, like he says, it's the last memory of his hair, and then the next item that they recover has to do with memory as well?
Yeah.
That's
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought that was pretty cool. I don't know if they did that on purpose. They probably did, but I thought that was a cool tie-in.
Yeah.
And then when Norman, I still crack up. When he says, when the going gets harder, squeeze the lemons into juice.
Yeah.
That's like his
that was hilarious too.
Pep talk.
Yeah.
He's trying to think of like the cliches that we say.
Yeah.
So funny. I love Norman.
Me too. Shane meeting Serge at the pawn shop. His line, Serge's line when he says, I recently had my apartment fumigated. And then Norman, kind of chuckles and he's like, I think he likes you. And Shane just gives this really uncomfortable facial expression.
I know. I was like, what? Why is he saying that? And just Norman just gets so excited when he's like, I think he likes you.
I know.
He's like so giddy about that.
I know.
That's funny.
Another funny moment from the episode is seeing Becky singing the song and Norman's just kind of like casually dancing in the background.
Yes. Yeah. I know. It makes me wonder, like, what has Becky gone through? Like, she's really feeling this song. She must either be in love or she just had a breakup or something.
Yeah.
Becky.
Yeah. And I love how Norman says something like, she's listened to that song 6 times already.
Must be a really good song.
Yeah. I think it's a great song. I would probably listen to it on repeat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Becky telling everyone that she used to run tours at the National Postal Museum as an intern. And then Norman almost spilling the beans about Holly. I love how he kind of like stops himself.
I know. I was like, really, Norman? What are you doing?
I know.
Listen to yourself.
I was like, what are you doing?
I know. Giving a little bit of TMI there.
I know. The last funny moment I have on my list is from that same scene. And Rita is talking about her evening gown for the Miss Special Delivery pageant and all the pockets.
Yes.
I can't remember the names of them, but I think there was one that was like international. And then a few seconds after that, Norman kind of chimes in and he's like, bulk.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have any tear-worthy moments that we haven't already mentioned?
I think all of those we have mentioned, just, the revelation of Billy's accident and how he lost his memory. And then, of course, when he gets upset when he hears the song for the first time.
Yeah, I wrote that down. Billy not recognizing his own song.
Yeah, man, that's got to be hard. That was so upsetting.
The next one I have on my list is Shane and Rita talking to Jennifer and seeing the accident, which we already mentioned. And then Kelly talking to Shane and Oliver. The first time that they go to the hospital. Yeah. And this was after Billy doesn't recognize his own song. Mm-hmm. And Kelly is talking to Shane and Oliver about, what the doctors have said with his memory. It just breaks my heart.
Yeah. Sad.
Do we want to share the lessons that we learned from this episode?
Yeah, I have 2. The first one being the saying that sometimes your heart remembers what your mind forgets. And then in regards to at the beginning when they're looking at the loose items and Shane refers to it as junk.
Yes.
And I just wrote, don't judge a book by its cover.
Yeah. Those are both great. I have both of those written down. A box of junk isn't always a box of junk.
There you go.
We have some trivia for all the postables out there.
Yeah.
Do you want me to go first or do you want to go first?
Yeah, you go first.
Okay. What did Billy name his guitar? Daisy, Samantha, Holly, or Catherine?
I actually know this one this time, and it's a Daisy.
Yes.
Ding, ding, ding.
What was the date of the last time Jennifer saw Billy? March 21st, April 3rd, March 16th, or February 2nd?
I know this one as well because it was also one of my trivia questions.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. And the answer is March 16th.
Yes.
Yay.
What is Billy's sister's name? Emma, Louise, Kristen, or Kelly?
I think I would remember if it was Kristen, so I know it's not. I'm going to go with Kelly.
Yes. Ding, 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 ding. What color was one of the exercise balls you see behind Billy in the last scene as he reunites with Jennifer? Blue, yellow, red, or green?
I have no idea. I'm going to guess blue.
Nope.
Oh. What is it?
Red.
Oh, okay. That was going to be my second guess. The one reason why I said blue is because we have a blue one.
Oh.
So I thought maybe that was the more popular kind.
Oh, good job.
Yay, those were good. Okay, so yeah, we already mentioned one that I had, so I have two for you. The first one is, when we first meet Serge, what is around his neck? Is it a gold chain necklace, a bow tie, or headphones?
Headphones.
Yes. Ding, ding, ding.
Yay.
And then, what is the name of the magazine that Rita's having her photo shoot for? Is it called the Miss Mail Girl magazine, Mail Monthly magazine, or Delivery Girl magazine?
Mail Monthly magazine.
Yes. Ding, 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 ding. Good
Yay.
job.
All right, Postables. On to Dark of Night. Dark of Night premiered on June 8th, 2014.
Starring Lane Edwards as Michael Wheeler, Aaron Pearl as Carl Brackner, Kimberly Sistad as Melissa, Stephanie Bennett as Abby, and Giles Panton as Barry.
Yes. And a little trivia for the Hallmarkies out there. You'll know Aaron Pearl from the Wedding March series, and Giles Panton, who recently starred in the Miracles of Christmas movie for 2021, The Christmas Promise. Justice comes in the form of a letter as the team at the Dead Letter Office solve clues to deliver not only a letter, but an unspeakable truth that has been buried for years. What were your first thoughts on this episode?
Oh my goodness. This episode, I really can't watch a whole lot. Obviously I watched it for the podcast. I probably won't watch it again for a very long time. It's hard to watch. It's sad and dark and shocking. But I do think that Lane Edwards deserves a round of applause.
Yes.
For his, yes, he does a really great job portraying the character of Michael and all the trauma and tragedy that he has to go through. But yeah, on the flip side though, on the kind of happy, exciting side of this episode, we get the beginning of the official journey of the Postables task force. We get the name, which is really cool. I love that. And then of course the ending, I won't spoil it because I know we're going to talk about it, but a very big event for the Postables and especially Oliver. So, given the storyline and what happens, I like this episode. It's not something I would watch all the time, but I still would give it an 8 out of 10. What about you?
I thought it was great. It was probably one of the best episodes of the series, even though it is hard to watch.
Yeah.
It's a very sad episode, but it's still a great episode.
Yeah.
I would probably give it a 9 out of 10.
Nice. Cool.
The episode starts with a young woman. She's a candy striper. And for anyone that doesn't know what a candy striper is, that is a hospital volunteer. She's running around through a hospital with an envelope in her hand. And then we see another woman in a hospital bed writing a letter in a hurry. And I wrote in my notes about the woman, what happened, what kind of accident did she have, and what does the nurse mean by she can't stall them any longer. And then we see the woman hand the letter to the candy striper, and she tells her to mail it for Michael and their little girl. Yeah. So now we pretty much know that she's married and they have a daughter together. The woman's name is Melissa Wheeler, and her husband's name is Michael, as we see written on the envelope that the candy striper is addressing to have mailed.
Yeah.
When you first saw this episode, what were your thoughts about what could have happened to Melissa?
Well, just the acting and the way that it was filmed alone, I could feel like this sense of urgency that this was probably a life or death situation happening for Melissa. And so I was kind of like on the edge of my seat, like, even though I've, watched it multiple times now, like I still kind of feel on the edge of my seat. I think they do a really good job. Like
they do.
This is urgent. This is life or death. Like this is intense.
They do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
At first I thought it was possibly a car accident. Like, I never would have thought that it was what we find out later in the episode.
Yeah.
But after that scene and the intro, it cuts to Shane and Becky in the Mailbox Grill, and they're having a conversation about Oliver and him overhearing their conversation in the previous episode.
Oh, yeah. Oops.
Yeah, I wrote that down in my funniest moments, just, the whole conversation, which we can talk about later.
Yeah.
But Becky tells Shane that she can't go back to Washington until she fulfills her special projects quota.
Mm-hmm. Wonder what that will be.
I know. We will find out soon enough.
Yes, we will.
Oliver walks in a few minutes after that, and he's holding the package in his hand. And the package includes a Bible with a letter stuck inside, as well as a cover letter. The cover letter talks about a patient at Long Oaks Lodge for mental health. That patient has recovered enough to leave after many years of treatment. The cover letter also mentions that at the time he left, he confessed that the Bible he carried for so long was stolen by him 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
He also decorated the unmailed letter and used it as a bookmark.
Mm-hmm. I thought
in the Bible.
That the I guess you could say like the doodling or what his markings on the letter were. I thought maybe that was going to tie in somehow.
I did too at first,
because Shane kind of looks at it, like she kind of takes a second and like looks at the drawing. So I thought maybe that was going to give us some type of clue, but I don't think they ever really say anything about it. It doesn't really come back up.
No, I thought it was interesting though.
Yeah.
And the drawing was really good.
Yeah, it was.
I thought.
Yeah.
The return address is St. Augusto Hospital Intensive Care Unit. It includes a 37-cent 2004 commemorative stamp, and it lacks a postmark.
Mm-hmm.
Oliver opens the envelope and starts reading the letter with Shane sitting right across from him. And I wrote in my notes, referencing the letter, why does Melissa say she can't blame him for walking out? And what does Melissa need an operation for?
Yeah.
And then it cuts to the scene. It cuts to the flashback scene of Melissa and another man who we find out is Barry.
Yes.
At a hotel. And Melissa's husband, Michael, he sees Melissa and Barry at the hotel.
Yeah.
And then, they have the conversation outside.
Mm-hmm.
Which kind of broke my heart a little bit, just that small little argument they had.
Yeah. I wasn't looking very good for Melissa being at a hotel with her, quote unquote ex-boyfriend, but also, Michael's best friend. And it definitely didn't bode well for her story.
No, it did not. I believe the line that Melissa said was something along the lines of, when things are good, he's your best friend, but when things are bad, he's my ex-boyfriend.
Yeah, so they must have had a lot of conversations involving Barry in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also in that scene, we hear that Michael is running for office.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really tell us what kind of office he's running for, but that he is running for office.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a plan for Melissa to go on a mother-daughter trip with her daughter. But she invited Michael to go, making it a family trip, but he unfortunately declined, which was kind of sad because of knowing what happens after that.
I know. Yeah.
I believe Melissa even says in her letter during the flashback scene, there's that voiceover, and she said something like, I would have never let you go if I knew what was coming next.
Yeah, that's so sad.
I know. The next flashback scene we see is at the hospital with Michael, and I'm guessing it's probably one of Melissa's friends. We don't know who it is, but she's talking to him about the accident, and then a nurse comes in the waiting room and tells Michael that there is an issue with the lab work that they did on his blood.
Yeah.
We see that heartbreaking scene of Michael coming into Melissa's hospital room and him telling her that she's going to lose a kidney, but that he can't be the donor because his blood doesn't match, which is just, oh man.
Yeah, that was a big shock first time I saw it. I was like, oh man. I mean, and just his anger that came with that, because obviously, you know, he doesn't know the full story, and she doesn't really have time to explain, and he really doesn't give her the time to explain because he's so mad. And I have this under my, you know, tearjerker moments, because it's like, it's hard because he's in this really angry, confused place, and he's hurt too because, you know, his wife and his daughter have been hurt, and then now he just found out that maybe his daughter is not his daughter, and you know, they just had a fight, you know, about Barry before she left for their trip, and then but here she is in the hospital, and you know, we don't really know at the time how severe her situation is, but it's just, oh my gosh, he's, you know, yelling at her while she's in the hospital, and yeah, it's just, it's a very intense scene.
I know. In that same scene, we hear Michael tell Melissa that Abby was born 9 months and 2 days after they got married. And, you know, they keep fighting. And Melissa says something about our little girl. And then, you know, he corrects her and he says, your little girl. And that just broke my heart.
I know.
When Michael mentions when Abby was born, what were your thoughts? Did you immediately think about it possibly being what it was?
Not really, you know, obviously, like with this show, I know that there's more than meets the eye. Like there's more to the story than what we see. I definitely would have never in a million years predicted this kind of storyline. But yeah, it definitely was unexpected and shocking, and I really didn't know, you know, like who to believe. Like, do I believe her that, you know, that she can explain it, or, you know, is it, you know, kind of sketchy like he's making it out to be? So
yeah.
What about you?
It definitely crossed my mind, but I wasn't 100% sure.
Right. Yeah.
That was what it was.
Yeah.
It definitely crossed my mind when we hear the voiceover of Melissa's letter and her saying that Michael is not the father and neither is Barry. That was just like an eye-opening moment. Like, I was almost 100% sure at that point that it was what I thought it was.
Yeah, that totally will like take you by surprise. Like, wait a second, is there a third option? What's happening here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The letter also mentions that there hasn't been anything between Melissa and Barry since college. So when they broke up in college, you know,
that was it.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
The letter mentions that Melissa and Barry were at the Claremont Hotel because they were planning a surprise party for Michael for his birthday the following week. This is when Oliver stops reading the letter and, you know, starts to put it back in the envelope. And then Shane tells him to keep reading because she, you know, wants to know more about what happened and who the father is. She just has an instinct about this letter and it being a serious kind of thing.
Yeah. I have this under one of my favorite scenes is that she has her instinct, and Oliver ends up saying that he kind of has a instinct too, or a sign, he says.
Yeah.
And
as he opens the Bible, Oliver has the same instinct because the Bible was bookmarked with the letter on the verse, and you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free. John chapter 8, verse 32, which is a very significant and a very important Bible verse.
Oh yeah. I'm glad that they both went with their instinct.
I am too.
Oliver noticed that sign, because had they not, you know, they wouldn't have.
Yeah.
You know, we wouldn't have found out exactly what happened, and again, another life or death kind of situation.
Yeah, he says, as they realize that the bookmarked page was on that verse, Oliver says, 10 years is a long time to be a prisoner to a lie.
Yeah.
Shane can't find any police reports from an O'Hannigan's bar from that year because it was never reported. And at this point, we know that Melissa was a victim of rape, which is very depressing and very difficult to process.
Yeah. Honestly, I was very shocked by this storyline.
I was too.
Yeah.
The same guy that raped her used a gun to assault a kindergarten teacher 3 days before. He was caught for that and he went to prison for life.
I mean, good thing he was caught.
Yes, definitely. As Rita is reading the letter in the DLO, we hear that Melissa thought about not going through with the pregnancy, but she just couldn't do it, which really made me cry.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really sad.
I couldn't even imagine going through that.
Yeah.
Michael has been the deputy district attorney since 2006, and he was widowed in 2004. The next scene after the one in the DLO with Shane and Oliver and Rita and Norman talking about the letter is Michael at the cemetery standing by Melissa's grave, and Shane is spying on him. Michael basically is going to seek out revenge against Carl Brackner for what he did to Melissa.
Yeah. The plot thickens. It gets even more intense.
Yeah. And again, can we talk about both Lane and Kristen's performance in that scene?
Yeah, really
good. Bravo.
Yeah.
Shane's facial expression even broke my heart. Just as she's watching Michael grieve his wife.
That had to be hard to do. And she definitely probably was not expecting it to get to that point.
No.
Hear him say that he's going to kill the guy.
As she walks back into the DLO, I believe the line is, Oliver, I think Michael Wheeler is out for revenge.
Yeah, she's like on the ball. She's like, okay, guys, I got some big news for you. We need to do something fast.
Yeah.
This is urgent.
The next moment is when they're all huddled by Shane and her computer, and she breaks into the City Hall mainframe. I love Norman's face. He's just like, oh boy, what are we getting ourselves into?
Yeah, he's getting uncomfortable.
While we're seeing Shane break into the City Hall mainframe, we're also getting a scene of Michael pretty much doing the same thing.
Yeah.
At his office, and he is searching for the kindergarten teacher story, just like she did. After that, he starts to search the DA's files on the case.
Yeah.
We find out that Carl Brackner may be released, and his case is back on the docket. He is on his last appeal for this particular case.
Yeah.
Which is kind of scary to think about.
Yeah, it is.
And the criminal running loose.
Yeah, exactly.
Streets again. A little while after that, we have the scene of Becky and Oliver and Shane. They're in the Mailbox Grill, and they're talking about the case and how, they're not sure how to move forward because of, their limitations. And Becky gives a memo for Shane, to write back to Washington.
Yes.
The memo is for general distribution from the people at the USPS in Washington, like I just mentioned, effective immediately. She says that the DLO is now being reorganized into a special task force dedicated to the delivery of sensitive letters, packages, and related material deemed undeliverable and needing special handling with wide powers of postal discretion, fiscal independence, and they shall report directly and solely to Becky and her division.
This is a great memo. Very professional, very well thought out.
Yes.
Short, straight to the point.
Yes.
Good job, Becky.
I loved Shane's line, when they finished with the memo and she says something like, Norman is going to love this.
I love that line too. She knows Norman so well. And she was right. We get to see Norman and Rita both. They're both so excited to hear this news. It's so great.
Yeah. And we can talk about that scene in a few minutes, but I thought it was great.
Yeah.
We soon see Shane and Oliver and Rita and Norman go to the courthouse to kind of watch the trial or the case for Carl Brackner. Michael got his briefcase through security without inspection. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I really didn't know how that was possible, but
I know.
Sometimes
I was thinking,
it's a TV show. You have to kind of, suspend belief sometimes.
Yeah. It was just like he casually walked through security. No inspection whatsoever.
Yeah. And I mean, can we talk about how brave you have to be to even try this?
There's
so many things that could go wrong. I mean, including carrying out the act that he was intending to carry out. But even just building up to it, you know what I'm saying? Anything could have happened and he would have been busted and it would not have gone well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
After
Carl Brackner's trial, we get the scene of Michael going to the jail to meet Carl face to face.
Yeah.
And Michael's talking to Carl and tells him that Melissa died in a river rafting accident, which really broke my heart. I've never been river rafting, but I've heard it can be very dangerous.
Yes, which is why I've never been and will never go.
Exactly.
I'm a very play it safe type person.
Yeah. I'm not a daredevil.
Yeah,
Melissa.
I'll keep my feet on the ground.
Yeah. Michael shows Carl a picture of Abby, and Carl, looks at the picture and he says that she reminds him of his mother. And then, that scene ends and we see him back in his jail cell, actually opening the Bible and starting to read it, which I loved.
Yeah, me too.
A little bit of redemption.
Yes, totally.
The last big major plot point, we can talk a little bit more about this in a few minutes, but the Postables were given the Distinguished Service Award and the Dark of Night Award.
Yay! Finally, very well deserved.
Yes. Do we want to get into our favorite scenes?
Yes. So we already talked about, Shane telling Oliver that she had the instinct to keep reading the letter.
Yes.
A good scene. Seeing in the present day that Abby is still alive and that she's working with Michael. I love that too. To know that they still, that's still her dad and he's still her daughter. He raised her even though they're not, biologically, family. They're still family. So it was really nice to see that they were still, together, that they were still in each other's lives.
I totally agree.
Yeah. And then, of course, toward the end, Rebecca giving the gang their full authority of the Special Task Force and, the name, the Postables, is born. Thanks to Rita.
I actually have Becky's speech written down before she gives the awards. In the 3 happy weeks that I have spent at the Denver branch of the U.S. Post Office, I have learned not only what it means to be a better postal worker, but I have learned from these honorees what it means to be a proud postal worker. It may be true that electronic thought has taken over our world. I mean, we tweet and text faster than we can think. OMG. But a year ago, or perhaps 100 years ago, someone wrote a letter with real words and more than 2 seconds of thought put behind them. And we are living their future. There are thousands of letters, each one of them a voice from the past, just waiting to be heard. It'll take the kind of sacrifice and devotion given by you, the honorees, who have each received not only the Distinguished Service Award from this branch, but I am happy to announce that the Postmaster General of the United States has instructed me to confer upon you the highest honor for any U.S. postal worker, the Dark of Night Award.
Yay! So perfect. Go team.
Yes, go team.
How proud Oliver is. And
can we just comment on how happy Shane was for Oliver? Like she didn't even care about her. She was just focused on Oliver.
Yes, looked over at Oliver. She knew how much this means to him.
Yes.
He has wanted this and has earned it. I love that. I loved it too. That's
just the looks that they shared and just, seeing how happy she was for him.
Yeah, it was really sweet.
I loved her line at the end, right as the episode is, starting to fade out. And she says, "Now this is fun." And then she kind of just like shoulder bumps it. I thought that was really cute.
That is cute. One of my last favorite scenes is the courtroom scene, because I thought it was really suspenseful and thrilling. The first time I watched, I was pretty much convinced that he was going to pull out the gun.
I did too.
Obviously glad that he didn't.
Yeah.
I love that the way that it ended, like the fact that like Rita, Norman, Shane, Oliver, they all worked together to talk him out of it, specifically Oliver. Like, again, that takes so much courage, because they don't really know this guy. They don't know what he's capable of doing, or, where his mind is at. And so for them to just go in there, with this plan that could go awry at any minute, with this plan of trying to talk him down, and like they have one shot, like they have one opportunity to talk him out of doing something that he's going to regret.
Yeah.
And the fact that they went for it anyways, and obviously that it worked. I really love that scene.
Yeah. We already talked about the scene a little bit, but I loved the moment when they're all huddled around Shane's computer. Just, their teamwork.
Yes.
And I love Shane's line when she said something along the lines of, "Anyone that doesn't want to know what I'm about to do should leave now." And Oliver said something like, "Well, I'm not leaving and you're going to tell me."
Yeah.
He was like very serious.
Yeah, she warned them. She knows her audience. She knows that they're not going to be fully supportive, but Oliver's like, "I don't really care."
Yeah. Oliver praying while Michael talks to Carl. That was one of the best moments in the episode.
Yeah, that was a really good moment.
I would probably have to say that that's in my top 2 favorite moments of the episode, just because of how powerful it was.
Yeah.
And phenomenal acting to all 3 of them, Lane, Aaron, and Eric.
Mm-hmm.
The last one, which we already mentioned, but the big moment when the Postables are finally formed.
Yes. Love it. Great idea, Rita. Great name.
Yes. Do you have any funny moments that you want to share?
Yeah, I had a few. I had the beginning, the awkwardness from Shane and Oliver and Rebecca at the Mailbox Grill, after Rebecca tells Shane that Oliver overheard their conversation about him.
Shane says,
"Forget it."
Yeah, Shane says, "What did I say?" And then I think Becky says something about, all nice things. And she's like, "I can't go back to the dead letter office now. Take me back to Washington with you, please." And Becky's like, "No, this place is good for you." I would have to agree with Becky on that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, Shane got herself into a little predicament there.
Yeah. Becky's line also in that same scene when Oliver comes up and she's like, "If it fits, it ain't shipping."
Yeah.
That kind of made me laugh too.
If it fits, it ships. Another funny moment I loved was Norman saying, he was saying, "I don't like the idea of that guy walking around."
Yeah.
And he says, "Hey, what if he couldn't walk? I have a cousin."
I know.
And Oliver just like shuts him down. He's like, "No."
Yeah, he's like, now is not the time for that.
Yeah. I would have loved to hear what Norman was going to say about a cousin who could possibly do some damage, I guess.
I would have to.
And then, of course, at the end, Norman with his suit and his sunglasses.
Yes.
He's our very own James Bond, and he orders his Arnold Palmer shaken, not stirred. I love that moment.
I thought it was really sweet how he offered to buy Rita.
Yeah.
And Arnold Palmer too. And she's like, yes, please, with an umbrella, please.
Yes. She probably loved him in that uniform.
Yes. This was also in the scene in the mailbox grill when Becky leaves, and it's just Shane and Oliver. And Oliver says, it must be nice having a friend visiting from your old stomping grounds. And then Shane goes, yeah, although I really didn't stomp that much. Didn't stay there that long. And then Oliver says, should we expect you to move on at some point? And then Shane's like, on? And Oliver's like, are you unhappy at the DLO with us? And then Shane's like, us? And Oliver says, the team, Norman, Rita. And then Shane says, no, not unhappy. In fact, I'm actually starting to do a little stomping here.
Oh, yeah. That's a good line.
Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was kind of funny how he just mentions Norman and Rita, but he doesn't mention himself.
Yeah. I caught on to that too.
Shane going to Michael's office to see if the letter was delivered. And her line after Michael leaves, and it's just her and his assistant. And, you know, she kind of looks around and she's like, I'm sorry, wrong zip code.
Yeah. Quick thinking.
Even though the letter is clearly there.
Yes, yeah. She just had to say what she needed to say to get out quick.
Yeah. Rita talking about being allergic to leather in the courtroom. I thought that was hilarious.
And her
fake sneeze.
Yeah, it's so cute.
The last one is from the scene in the DLO when the postables are, you know, finally formed, and they're giving off all these ideas. You know, Norman and Rita are giving off all these ideas, and one of the things Rita mentioned are, you know, patches, I guess, for, you know, jackets, whatever. And then Norman mentions capes, and Shane says, I think you should draw the line at capes.
Yes, I'm with Shane on that one.
Yeah, me too. Do you have any tear-worthy moments that we haven't already mentioned? I think we mentioned pretty much all of them.
Yeah, we've mentioned all the ones that I had on there.
Yeah. In my notes, I have the opening scene at the hospital, Shane and Oliver reading Melissa's letter in the mailbox grill, and the flashbacks, and then all four of them talking about the letter in the DLO. The line from Oliver in Melissa's letter that really made me cry is, you're not Abby's father, but you are, and you always will be her daddy. Please forgive me, and if you can't, I understand. I have always loved you, and I've been blessed to be your wife.
Oh, so sad.
Yeah. Shane seeing Michael standing over Melissa's grave and reading her letter. And then the last one is Michael meeting Carl Brackner.
Yeah.
Face to face.
Yeah. Again, which takes a lot of courage.
Yeah, I don't know if I could have had that much courage.
I mean, that's a hard situation to put in, but I mean, he's doing it for his daughter, you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes you just do whatever you can for your child, you know? There's nothing that I wouldn't do for my son. So I totally get that aspect of him, you know, just going in there. And again, he has one opportunity, like one chance to convince Carl to get the DNA test done, you know, prove that he's the dad and, you know, help save her life.
Yeah. I believe the line from Michael to Carl was something along the lines of, you know, you have a chance to do something good.
Yeah. Yeah. Not many other people, you know, can say that in his position where he's at.
Do we want to talk about the lessons that we learned from this episode?
Yes, I just had two. I had, of course, you know, John 8:32, you will know the truth and the truth will make you free. And then I have, sometimes you have to follow your gut instincts.
Yes, that's a great one too. I didn't have that one written down, but that's a great one. We have some trivia for the postables out there. Do you want me to go first again, or do you want to go first this time?
Yeah, go ahead.
My first question is, what is the name of the director of psychiatric services Oliver mentioned when talking about the letter? Now, this was in the scene in the mailbox girl when they're first opening the letter. Nancy, Carly, Emma, or Catherine?
I actually wrote this down, and it's A, Nancy.
Yes.
Yay.
Ding, 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 ding. Got it right. What was the date mentioned in Melissa's letter? April 23rd, January 7th, May 16th, or November 13th?
That was one of my trivia questions too, so I have the answer here. It's May 16th.
Yes, ding, ding, ding. Good job. What is the name of Michael's assistant? Jocelyn, Morgan, Erin, or Sandra?
It's Sandra. I wrote that down too.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I took your other question.
No, it wasn't a question, but I just wrote it down just in case.
Oh, okay. My last question is, what is the date on the medical records the Postables got from Abby's doctor that they gave to Michael? January 21st, February 22nd, February 6th, or April 17th?
Okay, I didn't write this one down. I'm going to say February 6th.
Ding, 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 ding.
Woo,
you got it right.
Yes. Oh,
good
great.
Job.
Cool, yay. Okay, first question for you is, what color is the Bible that the letter is placed in? Is it brown, red, or blue?
Blue.
Ding, 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 ding. And last question is, what design is Norman's mug that he uses when he asks Oliver if he can have a yoo-hoo? Does it have stripes on it, stars on it, or polka dots?
Oh, gosh. I was not even paying attention to this.
Yes.
I'm just going to guess stripes.
Oh, yeah, that was it.
Yay!
Good job. Yeah, it's actually, I think it's like a white mug, and then it's blue and red stripes. So it's like red, white, and blue, postal.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, postal colors.
Yeah.
All right, Postables. I think that wraps up our recap of Something Good and Dark of Night. We will be back next week for the Treasure Box and A Hope and a Future. We will see you next time. We love y'all. Bye.
Bye.